So today we're going to get into this huge debate that's happening in Japan. But honestly, it's a question countries everywhere are grappling with. It's all about land, national security, and of course, money, especially now when everything feels so interconnected.
I mean, think about it. It's a really powerful question, right? And the way a country decides to answer it, well, that tells you a whole lot about what they value, what they're afraid of, and where they think they're headed.
Okay, so this is what it all boils down to. You've got one side saying, hey, we need to restrict foreigners from buying our land. This is a matter of national security. But then you've got the other side pushing back, saying, whoa, hold on. If we do that, we might as well just hang up a closed for business sign and scare away all the foreign investment we desperately need. It's that classic tug of war, security versus an open economy. All right, let's break this down. The first big area of disagreement is this idea of security versus proven threat. And it really gets to a core question, a really tough one actually. Do you wait until you have solid proof that something bad has happened before you act, or do you try to get ahead of the problem and prevent it from ever happening in the first place? And this slide just lays it out so clearly. The folks who want more rules, they see it as a preventative shield. Their thinking is, look, if you wait until there's an actual intelligence leak or some kind of sabotage near a military base, well, it's too late. The damage is done. But the other side, they're saying this is a complete overreaction. Their comeback is pretty simple. Show us the proof. I mean, there's just no public evidence that any of this has ever actually caused any real harm. And the people pushing for these regulations, they're really quick to say, look, this is not about demonizing foreigners. They want to make it super clear that their focus is laser sharp on a very specific problem, the potential danger of having absolutely no idea who is buying up land right next to strategically important places. So when they use that word strategic, what are they actually talking about? Well, this is it. We're not talking about some random plot of land in the suburbs. They're pointing to really specific high-stakes areas. Think about land that sits on top of major water sources in Hokkaido, or a piece of property that's literally right next door to a sensitive military base in Okinawa. That's the kind of thing that's got them worried. But the counter to that always comes back to this one key idea: proportionality. The opponents are basically saying you can't build national policy on a bunch of what-ifs. They argue that without hard evidence of a real, tangible threat, creating all these new restrictions is just a massive overreach. It's like they're creating a solution for a problem that doesn't even exist. Okay, so moving on from the whole national security angle, we hit the second major battlefield in this debate, the economy. And here, the question is totally different. Is foreign money a good thing, like a vital investment that helps the economy grow? Or is it a dangerous speculative force that could end up doing more harm than good? And believe me, the arguments about money are just as intense. On one side, you have people warning about speculative bubbles. The fear is that foreign buyers will snap up land not to build anything or contribute, but just as a bet that prices will go up. This drives up costs for everyone and can lead to neglected, empty plots of land, which really hurts local towns. But the other side, they fire right back, saying that these kinds of rules send a terrible message to the global community. It's like putting up a giant sign that says Japan is closed for business, and that could scare off the exact kind of investment the country really needs to thrive. And to back this up, the anti-regulation side has a pretty powerful number they like to use: less than 1%. Think about that. Out of all the land transactions happening across the entire country, less than 1% involve a foreign buyer. So they ask a pretty fair question. Are we really going to create this huge, complicated national policy for such a tiny, tiny sliver of the market? But the pro-regulation side says, hold on, that 1% number is totally misleading. They argue that looking at the national average completely misses the point. The real issue, they say, is concentration. Because if you zoom in on specific hotspots, say a popular ski resort or one of the islands in Okinawa, foreign ownership suddenly isn't a tiny fraction anymore. In those places, it can be a huge, dominant force that completely changes the local economy and way of life. And this is where they do something really clever. They completely flip the economic argument on its head. They say, you know what really scares away serious, long-term investors? It's not clear rules, it's uncertainty. Their point is that by creating a stable, predictable system with fair regulations, you might actually attract the right kind of investment, not scare it away. So you've got these two sides clashing at home, right? Naturally, the next question is, what does everyone else do? How does the rest of the world handle this? So let's take a look at these so-called global standard, and you'll see how both sides find plenty of examples to back up their own points.
And surprise, surprise, it turns out there really isn't one single global standard. The side that wants regulations will point to countries like Australia and France. Both of them have pretty strict review processes for buying sensitive land. And they'll say, see, this is totally normal. But then the other side will point right at the US and Canada, which are generally much more open, and argue, no, that's the model Japan should be following.
And this brings up a point about just basic fairness. The pro-regulation folks will often say, hey, our own Japanese companies face all kinds of restrictions when they try to buy land in other countries. So they ask, why should Japan be the only major country with its doors thrown wide open? For them, it's really just about leveling the playing field. Okay, so we've heard all the arguments: security, the economy, what other countries are doing. After all that, how on earth do you decide who's right? Well, it turns out this wasn't just some academic exercise. The debate that all this is based on actually had a formal judge who had to make a call and declare a winner. So, who won? Who made the better case? Was it the side that wanted to act before something bad happens? Or was it the side that demanded hard proof of a threat before making any changes? Well, the entire decision hinged on one single, crucial idea: proportionality. It's a really important legal concept, and it basically says that a government's reaction to something shouldn't be way bigger or more intrusive than the actual problem they're trying to solve. The punishment has to fit the crime. Or, in this case, the solution has to fit the threat. And using that principle as a guide, the judge actually sided with the team arguing against creating new regulations. And the reasoning came down to two key things. First, that total lack of any concrete proof that any harm had actually been done. And second, there was a real risk that new, vague rules could be used arbitrarily, which would create exactly the kind of uncertainty that investors absolutely hate. So at the end of the day, this whole verdict just shines a massive spotlight on a timeless problem that really every country struggles with. Do you take action now to prevent a potential risk? Or do you hold off until you have concrete proof of harm, and in doing so, risk that it might be too late to do anything about it? And that really leaves us with the big final question, doesn't it? In a world that's more connected than ever, how do you find that line? Where is the exact point where protecting your nation ends and closing it off from the rest of the world begins?